Cava. For some people, Cava is unfairly known as a cheaper version of champagne. But I say unfairly because Cava and champagne are different wines, each with its own characteristics, although with obvious similitudes. But to understand Cava, we have to go back to the 19th century, when a gentleman called Josep Raventós i Fajó was traveling around France promoting the wines from Penedès. There he came across the techniques used to produce champagne, and he thought he could take those techniques to his homeland, to Penedès. So in 1872, the first commercial Cava was born. And today, the denomination of origin Cava is the only multi-regional denomination in Spanish wine. It can be produced in 6 different regions, although around 90% of the production still comes from Penedès, especially around the town of Sant Sadurní d'Anoia. But what is Cava? Cava can be produced with a number of grape varieties, but mainly with 3 autochthonous grape varieties that form the perfect trilogy. Macabeo, that gives the wine acidity and freshness. Xarel·lo gives body and the ability to age. And Parellada, which produces wines with a lot of creaminess and a lot of elegance and very aromatic wines. The 3 grape varieties are vinified separately, and then the enologist, the winemaker, makes a blend, which is a unique recipe for each Cava and is one of the best kept secrets of every winery. To that coupage, that base wine, a blend of nutrients, sugars and yeast is added, and that's where the magic happens. That yeast feeds on the sugar and produces alcohol and CO2, and that CO2 is the famous bubbles on the Cava. That second fermentation lasts for around 1 to 2 months, but then the wine is kept in the cellars for much longer. And that's where we find the first classification of Cavas. A Cava needs to be aged for at least 9 months. If it's more than 15 months, it's a Cava Reserva. If it's more than 30 months, it's a Cava Gran Reserva. But with that second fermentation, not only alcohol is produced. The yeast keeps feeding on sugar until sugar is gone. Then the yeast dies and produces some sediments, also known as lees. We need to get rid of those sediments before the wine is bottled. And the way used to get rid of those sediments is unique. The bottle is kept in the cellars horizontally, and every day is shaken and tilted more and more and more until it finishes totally vertically. Then the sediments end up at the neck of the bottle, and it's when another key moment of the production of Cava happens. To get rid of those sediments, the cork is released and then the CO2 pushes the sediments out, but then we need to fill that empty space in the bottle with the licor d'expedició, which is a blend of wine and sugar. And depending on the amount of sugar, we find the second classification of Cavas, depending on the sweetness of the Cava. So we go from Brut Nature, with less than 3 grams of sugar per liter, to Extra Brut, Brut, Extra Sec, Sec, Semi-Sec, and Dolce. Dolce with more than 50 grams per liter. So how do you open a bottle of Cava? First you release the foil. And then the wire cage, always put your hand on top, you want to avoid any accidents. On the wire cage, you do 6 half turns. Should be open. And always holding the cork, you turn the bottle and release the cork. It's important for the cava to be chilled, not only because it's more pleasant when drinking, but also because if it's too warm, the cork could pop out. Now you might be wondering why I'm using a wine glass and not a flute. When drinking at home, when on a celebration in a restaurant, a flute is perfectly fine. But if you want to get all the aromas, if you want to really taste the cava, it's better to use a proper wine glass. The CEO of Krug Champagne, Maggie Enriquez, said that drinking champagne from a flute is like going to a concert with earplugs, and I totally agree. So in cava you will find a very dense mousse of very fine vowels, very elegant wine. The fact that the fermentation happens inside the bottle produces very fine bubbles. It's a wine that combines the complexity and the minerality of champagne and the freshness of Prosecco. In this case, I'm tasting Vilarnau, which is known as the Cava from Barcelona, as it is one of the closest wineries to the city. This, together with other wineries, were the pioneers on wine tourism in Spain. They started with the concept of having a visitor center where they could welcome families, not only adults but also kids, with their own little tour. This is the most traditional of the Vilarnau cavas, using the autochthonous grape varieties, Macabeo, Xarel·lo and Parellada, but they also produce another range of cavas, like Rosé Cava, using Pinot Noir and Trepat, another autochthonous grape variety, and cavas using the French grape varieties, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Although we normally consume cava as a celebratory drink, if you go, for example, to Catalonia, it's part of the gastronomy, and it can be used for a whole meal, from the starters to the desserts and after dinner, the whole meal with different cavas. So this New Year's Eve, do not drink cava only at the beginning of the meal or at the end. Use it during the meal. Just try it and you won't be disappointed. So, in behalf of all the Second in Speed family, we would like to wish you a very happy 2018. Cheers.